Hello, beautiful community. Just a tiny casual chat today, and I put up a silly title as a provocation into something that we all half know but are perhaps inclined to forget. And that's that when somebody like Mr. Girkin makes logical connections in the way he talks about the prosecution of the war and the incompetence of various bits of the Putin regime or the Russian state, that all makes sense to us. But as soon as it comes to Mr. Girkin justifying the war, you don't see logical connections. You begin to see magical thinking outside of cause and effect. Certainly there are some background beliefs there, such as Ukraine doesn't exist. But what is your justification for the war, Mr. Girkin? Right? And we've talked about how a very tempting bucket for Russian soldiers who might question what they're doing there is a kind of a bucket of inferred justification. We don't know why this is happening, but this is pretty big, and therefore there must be a good reason for it, even if we don't or can't know what it is. And Mr. Girkin, if one listens to him, doesn't give a justification for the war. Right? His justification for the war is either absent, or it's a series of aesthetic gestures, observing which gives you the feeling that what you're witnessing is either a kind of pseudo-romantic relic who wants to push Russia into the past and push some of the world into the past along the way too, or someone who thinks that whether such a push is conceivable as a sort of realizable action, it's at least something one should embark on, and then the very act of pushing into the past, Russia and anybody else you got to push alongside, that very act is the best you can do as far as collective self-realization goes. And if it's impossible, then it's at least a kind of a tragic fate, which is the only way, to resist what is ghastly in this world in which Russia's collective self-realization can never authentically materialize. I lived in Tonga for a while, and the king, who was old at the time, had a son who was obsessed with British imperial dress and engaged in fancy dress all the time. That's roughly Girkin's justification for the war. So I just wanted to share that. And the reason that matters is, and I'm not going to make the connection properly, but the reason that matters is that it feeds a helpful image into our sense that this is a war which has nothing to offer the world. This is an imperial project that has nothing to offer. This is an imperial project that isn't just offering some things, but also doing damage in other ways. It's a project that's creating destruction without offering anything good at all, including to Russians, even if, for some missionary reasons, himself being a victim of magical thinking, and also for some regime security reasons, Mr. Putin does have a justification that we can reconstruct quite a bit better than Mr. Girkin's. But this sort of war out of magical thinking, war out of a desire to return the world to a past state that's anyway unreal, a kind of grandiose ethical nostalgia, all of that is very interesting, and apt, right, for the kind of destructive emptiness that we're witnessing. That's just a couple of brushstrokes, lots of left, Doxon.